Her body was shaking as if the life was already gone from her. She stood barefoot on the muddy bank, clutching a torn white cloth that barely clung to her skin. Her cheek was swollen red. Her knees were raw with bruises, and her hip carried a fresh iron burn, seared so deep the smell of scorched flesh lingered in the air. The sun was blazing above. The sound of the river rolled steady. She tried to step forward, but her legs gave out. She fell to her knees, her voice trembling. Please do not lift it. Her plea was broken, a whisper torn between shame and fear. Eliza Hart had seen something she was never supposed to see. That morning she worked at the ferry landing, washing plates and carrying buckets. She watched as Mace Carver, a man once trusted on the Bar H ranch, switched out cattle and scribbled false papers. When she threatened to tell the sheriff, his eyes turned to stone. He dragged her behind the stockyard. He stripped away her dignity with his fists and boots, and then he pressed a branding iron against her skin. It was not just any brand. It was the Bar Hark owned by Cole Harding. The iron had been filed and reversed, a cruel trap meant to stain another man's honor. Mace was ready to finish the job. His hand tightened on the rope around her neck. But the ferry bell rang loud from the river. Voices carried down the trail. If he killed her now, too many eyes could fall upon the crime. He cursed, pulled the rope free, and with Sloane's help tossed her into the reeds by the river bank. Let the sun and the river finish her, he muttered. Hours passed, her breaths grew shallow, her eyes blurred against the burning sky. Every sound of hooves on gravel made her shiver. She thought death had already taken her. Then a shadow fell across her face. Cole Harding reined his horse at the water's edge, 54 years old, his clothes pressed neat, a red scarf tied at his neck. He had come only to water his horse before riding on to Dry Creek. Instead, he found a broken girl clinging to life, her body wrapped in tatters, her eyes pleading. He crouched beside her, pulled the scarf from his neck, and pressed it against the wound. He lifted the edge of the cloth despite her plea, and then he froze. Staring back at him was the mark of his own ranch burned into her flesh. Turned backward and cruel, why would a man go so far as to brand an innocent woman with another man's iron, and what secret was worth such brutality? Cole lifted the girl into his arms. She was light as a child, her skin hot from fever and sun. He laid her across the saddle and held her steady as the horse carried them to his lined shack just off the trail. Inside the cabin, the air was cool and smelled of wood smoke. He set her on the cot and poured water into a tin cup. She drank slow, her hands trembling like a leaf in the wind. "What's your name?" he asked. "Eliza." She whispered. Her voice was raw. Her eyes held the weight of someone who had seen too much. Cole cleaned the wound at her side. The sight of that backward brand burned in his mind, and it was his mark, twisted to frame him. Someone wanted his name ruined. He had lived long enough to know how fast a whisper in town could turn into a rope around a man's neck. Eliza's story came in pieces. She told him about Mace Carver at the Fairyland. She saw him swapping cattle and scribbling false bills of sale when she threatened to tell the sheriff. He and his partner dragged her away. They beat her until she could barely stand. Then they heated that iron. Her voice broke when she said it. They wanted folks to think you did it. Cole sat back, the floorboards creaking under his boots. Mace Carver had once worked for him, a hard hand with a mean streak. Cole had fired him after catching him short in the herd. Now it looked like Mace was back for revenge. A knock came at the door. Cole reached for the shotgun propped by the wall, but it was only Jasper Finn, the blacksmith. He wiped the sweat from his brow and asked if Cole had seen his missing branding iron. "Gone from the forge last night," Jasper said, "and my fire pit shows fresh ash." Cole felt the pieces click together. Eliza with her branded flesh at the missing iron, the crooked cattle deal. This was not chance. This was a plan. Her eyes searched his face, waiting for some promise. "You are safe here," he said. "As long as you stay under this roof, no one touches you." But both of them knew safety was only as strong as the door's latch. Mace Carver was still out there, and a man like him never walked away from unfinished business. So what happens when Mace comes back, and this time he's not alone? The sun was slipping lower when Cole saddled his horse again. Eliza sat behind him, clutching the blanket close. Her face was pale, but her eyes steady. He promised to get her to the doctor in town before nightfall. The trail was quiet at first, only the sound of hooves and the creak of leather, but halfway to Dry Creek, Cole felt the hair on his neck rise. He had lived too many years not to sense when eyes were watching. Two riders appeared on the ridge ahead, Mace Carver and Sloane Avery. They guided their horses down slow, blocking the path with a lazy grin that made the blood in Cole's veins turn cold. "Well, now," Mace called out. "Looks like old Harding picked up something he shouldn't." Cole shifted in the saddle, placing his body square between Eliza and the men. His hand gripped the shotgun resting across his thigh. The barrels pointed to the dust, but the message was clear. "Step aside," Cole said. His voice carried no tremble, just a tired kind of steel. Sloane laughed and reached for the revolver at his hip. In the same breath, Cole pulled the trigger and sent a blast of dust flying at Sloane's boots. The younger man jumped back, cursing as the horse reared. Eliza gasped, but Cole did not move. He held his ground like an oak tree in the wind. "You want her," Cole said. "You go through me first." The moment hung heavy. The river murmured in the distance. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Mace sneered but did not draw. He knew Cole still had one barrel left and a steady hand to use it. "Come on," he barked at Sloane. "This ain't the time." As they wheeled their horses, Sloane's belt slipped loose. A silver buckle marked with the letter M fell into the dirt. Cole's eyes locked on it, proof, cold and shining in the dust. When the outlaws were gone, Cole leaned down and picked up the belt. Eliza looked at it with wide eyes. "That is his," she said. "I told you." Cole tucked it into his saddle bag. He knew now he had more than a girl's word. He had a piece of evidence to tie Mace to the crime. The rest of the ride to town was quiet, but in Cole's mind the storm was only beginning. He had one barrel left in the shotgun and one chance to bring the truth into daylight. If you have been drawn into this fight for honor and survival, make sure you subscribe right now. That way you will not miss the next twist when justice and revenge collide on the open range. So, what will Cole find when he digs deeper into the shadows of his own ranch? And will the truth be enough to stop Mace before another life is broken? They camped outside the town limits and waited for dawn. Morning light spilled over the hills as Cole rode with Eliza into Dry Creek. The streets were waking, wagons rattling, shop doors opening. People slowed to watch as Cole guided his horse down Main Street with the girl sitting close behind him. Whispers followed them, low and sharp. Cole kept his eyes forward. He had lived long enough to know that rumors in a small town moved faster than a prairie fire. At the doctor's office, Eliza was treated with quiet care. The old physician cleaned her wounds and wrapped fresh bandages. He shook his head but gave a small smile. "She will heal," he said. "She's tougher than she looks." Cole waited on the porch, hat in hand, the weight of the silver buckle pressing against his side. It was not just metal. It was proof that someone wanted his brand and his name destroyed. Jasper Finn came striding up the street, sweat on his brow from the forge. "Cole, I have something you need to see." They walked together to a weathered hay shed behind the blacksmith shop. There, hidden beneath straw, lay the missing branding iron. Its edges were black with fresh ash. The mark had been filed backward, plain as day. Cole wrapped it in a rag, his jaw tight. "Will you swear this is yours?" he asked. Jasper met his eyes without hesitation. "Slend from me last night. I will swear it under oath." The two men carried it to Sheriff Amos Reed. The sheriff studied the iron, then the silver buckle, then listened as Eliza told her story in a steady voice. Each word struck like a nail into solid wood. When she finished, pendants filled the room. Sheriff Reed leaned back in his chair. "This is enough." the girl's word, the smith's oath, the buckle, and the iron. It all points to Mace Carver. He stood and lifted his rifle. He will not walk free another day. Relief washed over Cole, but he did not fool himself. Law was one thing, justice another. Mace Carver had already gone this far. He would not surrender easy. On the boardwalk outside, Lisa touched Cole's arm. Her eyes searched his face. "You believe me?" she asked. Cole's reply came quiet but certain. "I always did." The sheriff began gathering opposing men, saddling up with rifles ready, but Cole stayed close to Eliza. He knew his duty now was not chasing Mace into the hills. His duty was to keep her safe until the very end. Yet one thought gnawed at him. What if the sheriff was too late? What if Mace came back first, hungry for blood? Would Cole be ready to defend more than just her life? The days that followed were calm for the first time in weeks. Eliza rested under the shade of the cottonwoods while Cole kept watch from the porch. The sheriff's posy had ridden out after Mace, but Cole stayed behind. He had nothing left to prove. What mattered was the life sitting only a few steps away. By the second week, she was strong enough to help in small ways, fetching water, sweeping the cabin floor. Her laughter was soft at first, almost unsure, but each day it grew steadier. Cole found himself listening for it more than the sound of the wind. One evening he walked with her down to the same stretch of river where he had first found her. The light of the sunset turned the water gold. Cole carried his old coat across his arm and placed it gently around her shoulders. For a moment neither spoke. The air was filled only with the river and the cicadas. Finally Eliza broke the silence. "You could have walked away that day," she said. "You had no reason to stay." Cole looked out over the current, his face lined with years of hard living. Sometimes a man does not need a reason. Sometimes he just knows what is right. Her eyes shone in the fading light. For the first time since her nightmare began, she let herself believe in tomorrow. Stories like this are not just about gun, smoke, and iron. They are about choices. Do we stand aside when evil comes near, or do we step forward no matter the cost? Do we carry the weight of fear, or do we choose the harder path of honor? Cole Harding made his choice, and in doing so, he gave Eliza more than safety. He gave her back hope, perhaps even love. As the river rolled on, one thing was certain: life in the West was never gentle. But even in its harshest corners, courage and compassion could still take root, and when they did, they changed everything. If this story touched you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. That way, you will never miss the next tale of the Wild West, where every choice shapes a destiny. So ask yourself this: if you were standing on that riverbank with the power to turn away or to stay, what would you have done? And what story would be told about